I'd like to bring her on stage, ladies and gents. Please put your hands together as we bring her on stage to join me, Allison Rehill-Erguvan. Now, just seeing, right, I've been given this here, so you have to sit here. Because otherwise, if we sit in the wrong place, everyone's going to think he's had stuff done. So this is really initially looking at the idea of what makes a mall or a center become the heart of the ecosystem of a community. Mm-hmm. And so when we start looking at that, for somebody, I've lived in this region for 30 years, and I have to admit, I'm not a big shopper, but I do love the way that an ecosystem allows a whole experience to work very well as part of the community. So here's the first question. How has the Saudi consumer evolved, and how does that change the expectations that they're going to have of the customer experience?
Okay. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, so thank you very much. In terms of evolution, I think the first, you need to take 2 steps back from Saudi consumer and even the shopping center industry and just look at what's happening in Saudi today. You have a country that is going through an incredible evolution of its own. And with that, with the opening of its borders, with the introduction of things like movie theaters, with a culture shift that leans more now on togetherness and inclusion. Naturally, the shopping patterns, the desires become more dynamic and they become more tangible. So with that, we also have to evolve. We have to evolve and ensure that we are giving the Saudi consumer what they need. But it's not just based on observation or these macro data points that we keep hearing about. At Cenomi, we actually took a large part of the last quarter of last year doing extensive research on our own through one of the largest brokerage firms, doing a piece of competitive work for us, gap analysis work, future competition coming into the market. But we layered over that visa data, so we understood spend from 2019 to 2022. And then we also layered in a piece of work called Paragon AI, which dealt predominantly with mobile phone data and the migration of people. Where were they going? Where were they moving to? Where were they spending their time? So between those 3 layers, we put together a pretty comprehensive idea for our company specifically on where's the Saudi consumer spending its money? Where are they moving towards? And where is that gap going to be so that we could plan a strategy for the next 5 years? And some of that data told us, first of all, that greater than 60% of the population is under the age of 35. So it's young, it's dynamic, very well traveled, very well educated. They've seen outside their borders. They know what to expect. So it's our job to evolve and bring that home. But in addition to that, the visa data specifically told us the migration shift of spend went more towards F&B, more towards entertainment. It evolved with that culture shift of togetherness and inclusiveness. So what we now do is we take that information and we start to shift the mix that exists in the centers today so that we are providing the Saudi consumer what they desire and what they want. And ultimately, it's our ambition as a company to be one of the most desired lifestyle destination providers, not only in the kingdom, but also in the region.
When we talk about the Saudi consumer then, because it is such a young age group, many of them overseas, traveling, educated overseas and so on, that also means that they have very, very high expectations of not only what's going to be established in this country, but being social media savvy. If they don't like it, they'll tell the world at the same time. That's a lot of extra pressure to get it right and evolve at the same time.
So before coming to Saudi, I actually lived in China. The dynamic in China is very similar to the dynamic in Saudi. They are, it's still a conservative society, yet it's hyper digital, digitally savvy, and they will come together as a society to either support you or be against you, depending on how it works within their cultural norms, so to speak. So here we have to make sure that we are on the front foot, I believe, of walking that fine balance between providing cultural norms, yet with future ideas of what the shopping center destination should be.
So when you're talking about a younger demographic, to what obviously everyone's a younger demographic compared to me, they also, when they go shopping and they're looking around, there's a lot more that goes onto social media. There's a lot more interaction. Does that also alter the way that you look at, for instance, putting outlets into a shopping mall or putting the dining experience into a shopping mall? Because they will drive by their data what they like and what they don't like. So when you got the data, did you have to decide in advance this is what we're going to do, or is it something that evolves as you go?
So it's two things. It's going to evolve. First of all, we've got 21 assets in the portfolio, which are already living, breathing entities that are large. We've got 1.3 million square meters of GLA. You can't change that overnight. So that has to evolve over time with these shifts as expiry profiles come up, if there's an extension opportunity, if there's a reconfiguration opportunity. However, we put together a 5-year strategy at the end of last year that's built on 5 key priorities. The first priority is growth of the company. So it's where we have that opportunity to grow and build new product, where we can actually now start to put in the new DNA of what that evolution should look like. And in our strategy, we've got 2 new types of, I like to call it product. One are flagships. So proper, globally recognized flagships don't exist in the kingdom today. And we've got 3 in the pipeline, and 2 are being built right now. And what they will be bringing to the country is complete luxury destinations or luxury precincts, districts, shall I, along with a higher spec of design, a higher spec of circulation, a higher spec of finish, better digitally immersive experiences, more services, better parking, VIP lounges, personal shopping, but higher end of F&B. So we're really trying to, I wouldn't say throw everything in the kitchen sink at it, but we're really trying to bring to the country what doesn't exist today.
We've got an incredible opportunity to build something from scratch here, but what you've got, I would guess, is a challenge between going in one of 2 different routes. One of which is to do something that, say, McDonald's do, which is wherever you go in any part around the world, you see the big M, you know what you're going to get when you walk in, and in many cases, you walk in and you get the same thing that you'd want, and it tastes the same everywhere. But when you're building the retail in a country, do you want to make it so it's familiar, so any mall you walk into, you know what you're going to get, or do you want it to have that flavor that's unique to that region or that place or those people, that when they go there, it feels different, and that way they feel that it's their particular mall or center as opposed to other ones by the same company elsewhere?
Okay, so I mentioned earlier, we've got 2 new types of product that we're doing. So one are these flagships, which will have more of their own unique identity, unique features, firsts to the market, literally. And then the second product, which I didn't discuss, is we're evolving the shopping center to more of a lifestyle destination center, okay? So again, it's a higher spec on design and circulation, a higher percentage in food and entertainment, but it is built more for a more frequented shopping experience than a flagship, which is more of a special shopping experience.
When you say that, it's very specific, because I've got to be honest, I don't like shopping. I don't know how many people here like shopping. Everyone's going yes, because I'm clearly wrong. But here's the thing. An entertainment experience comes from going to a mall that doesn't exist in many other places, but this region has nailed it brilliantly. So when you talk about a lifestyle experience, how much of it is driven by the commercial aspect, and how much of it is driven for the customer to just spend time in it? Because I would say that in many cases, shopping is like a sport, a family sport. Is that driving from the very beginning, or is that something that you evolve into when you're doing it?
I think, when our portfolio was first built and the country was in a different era, so to speak, it was much more of a transactional type of environment. And you can see that in how a lot of the centers are built. Many, many doors, being able to get in and out, not necessarily spending too much time. So that evolution of food and entertainment, that's why it takes longer to do in those types of assets. But what we're building today, it's the reason why we're pivoting from shopping centers. Somebody else said that actually in the panel before, that they don't like the term shopping center. I'm kind of with them. I don't think we are necessarily shopping centers anymore. We're pivoting towards this moniker of lifestyle destination. You can call it lifestyle destination center, you can call it a flagship, but it's where you can spend time with your family for a good period of the day and have fun and eat, get the necessities done, potentially, in the future, go to a clinic, potentially. If you're doing, creating your own business, we'll have co-working and you can be a startup and go have lunch. And so, each lifestyle destination center will be unique to what that catchment requires. So that's also part of the evolution. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
I love that, and I love the lifestyle thing, because one of the things that's changed through the pandemic is the amount of people who started their own business, their own side hustle, either work from home or that commercially like to be inside a coffee shop or somewhere where there's a buzz of things going around. Is that something that's taken into consideration when you do put together a mall? Because it's not necessarily a financial money spinner, but it is something that gets to the heart of why people want to be there and see it as their second home.
So I didn't quite follow the question.
So when you're sorry, I'm all over the place. When you're putting together a shopping center, a mall, an experience, do you consider the amount of people who will be running their business from those places? Because the age that we're talking about are more likely to be interested in that.
Okay, got it. So in our mix, we're looking for that fine balance, and I don't think anybody's quite figured it out yet, between the international, which helps drive the traffic, as well as the national, regional, and local. It is a fine balance. Each asset ends up having its own, DNA and percentages of how that's tweaked. But one of the things that I had read recently is that in Saudi has one of the highest number of startups in the world, and most of the percentage is being started up by women specifically. So when we look at some of the new products and some of the teams here that we're going to build and going to lease, we're actually also looking at who are those new up-and-coming fashion brands, beauty brands that we can bring in, and even whether it's creating a special Saudi, made in Saudi corner, or it's something catered, specifically that is themed around that. It's an incredibly exciting time to be here with that kind of dynamic happening.
Definitely. But can we talk now about the experience of going in to the Cenomi experience as opposed to a normal mall that you find anywhere else? What makes it seamless? What makes it personal? And do you think as well that the use of data to be able to drive that is something that everybody wants to share with them all?
Okay, so I mentioned that we had built a strategy off of 5 key priorities. I mentioned the first one, which was growth, and the different types of product, as well as different geographies. That's another area that we're looking into, different new cities, and potentially at some point in the future, potentially being international. The second key priority there is the product itself, and it's something called product excellence. So we are re-looking at the customer experience. And I mentioned that just a little bit before. We are a customer-centric company. Our ecosystem, which is Cenomi Group, which Gunther was on here about 20 minutes ago. We've got Cenomi Retail, which is the largest retail franchise network in the kingdom. We've got the Centers, which is the largest shopping center company in the kingdom. Together we have an ecosystem, and so we need to make sure that we are creating the product that helps them, our partner, Cenomi Retail, as well as other retailers. But we're even looking at the customer experience. What does it mean when you drive up to park? Recently, we've had some complaints that our parking is difficult. And it's a good problem and a bad problem. We have so many people coming to some of our shopping centers that it's difficult to navigate through. So this is where we have, and they weren't built for that amount of people to come through, frankly. So we have to relook at that type of experience, because the moment somebody enters the property, that's when the experience begins. One could argue the moment somebody looks us up and opens our app or opens the rewards or opens the website, that's when the experience begins. So we're looking at all of those different aspects. But the other key points of the priorities of that strategy are also operational excellence. In that is the digitization of what we need to do. I am uber focused on the digital aspects of what we need to do, whether that be customer-centric or company-centric. We are looking at every different lever possible on how to either automate, be more efficient, be more seamless and frictionless to the consumer. That takes time, but we're on top of it. And then the last 2 points would be organizational excellence. So we've hired many new people. We have tweaked the organization in terms of its structure, and we're focusing on culture, delivering some new values, et cetera. And then sustainability, which is at the forefront of what we need to do. As a leader in the kingdom, we should also be leading on ESG.
How difficult is it when you put together an infrastructure and you organize a center as large as you're doing to get all the retail brands on the same page? Because it has to be that seamless experience, but some will do it better than others, and that affects what the customers say and do when they enter a premises. So is it that you have to educate everybody? Do they educate you? Are there rules that are put in place? How does it work?
I would say it's a little bit of both. When you're entering into that negotiation or discussion with a retailer, it's a partnership. It should be a partnership. It should not be one-sided. And I'll give you an example of working on one of the flagships. Those conversations start early. You ask them, what are they looking for? Who do they like to be co-tenanted with? What would be the ultimate design here and there? It is a give and take to a degree. You don't always get it right, but for more times than not, fortunately, we do.
Right now in this audience here, we have a whole range of different decision makers, from commercial to retail to brand building to construction. When people want to connect and work with you, is there an area that you would say you should talk to us? We're always looking for more of them. Or is it really like a done deal? Because many of the people who are here are saying, I'd like to be part of that, but I don't know where to start. What would be the first point of conversation, and what are you always looking for?
Well, look, in terms of talent, we're always looking for good talent. So if someone's coming here looking for a job, please come and talk to us, because we're always looking for the best and the brightest in the company. But I would say that the areas where we probably need to compete the hardest are going to be on the customer experience specifically. There's some really successful international competition that's coming into the market, Riyadh specifically, that I'm butting up right against for these flagships. And so anything on customer experience, design, circulation, activation, branding, et cetera, the experience now goes beyond just providing shops and some parking. It's a more of a holistic experience of digitalness, the omni-channel, which we can do, as well as just a pleasant journey. It's really important to have a pleasant journey and as frictionless as possible.
Once we went through the pandemic, it was a huge experience that drove a lot of people to do online, because we couldn't go to malls in the same ways we had the experience. From that, you can set up now in Saudi the whole ecosystem from scratch, the way that you want it to be. From a point of view of lessons learned, what would you say is different about the way to move forward into the future as you set up for the future of this region?
So there's some key trends that came out of COVID, where people pivoted their spend. One is take out food, and that's not going to go away. So we need to look at the centers and figure out how can we evolve the kitchens. How can we evolve for easier delivery, more convenient delivery? In addition, I would say, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, just talking about the post-pandemic world and the fact that when you create the malls, they're social places. When there's no social place, we don't expect it to be like that again. What are you doing differently this time?
So, okay, sorry. So now I got my train of thought back. So some of the key things that came out, one is on a greater takeout of food. Food takeout, just I don't think the volume has changed. If anything, it's probably increased, although we need more food. Also, having some outdoor elements. The centers that were able to become successful again more quickly, who bounced back quicker, were the ones that usually had outdoor elements during COVID because people weren't so afraid. And so it's interesting because you never know if we're going to have another pandemic. So having some indoor-outdoor elements, we're actually incorporating that also into our into the new product that we're doing.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see the results, and I have no doubt that the shape of such an exciting region and country will be driven in a great amount by what you're doing at Cenomi. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Ladies and gents, a massive round of applause for our expert on stage, please, Allison Rehill-Erguvan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.